at least this year, some of these pending bills will get passed.
But also, you know, fixing the accountability, ensuring that, you know, the bills, legislations like the ones about bribery or fixing the accountability, as I said, judicial accountability bill that he talked about, Gram Nyayalayas that he did talk about. Of course, there was no clear mention of Lokpal, but then
no, he
yes,
did.
other,
He did
other
mention
things.
Lokpal.
Okay.
He mentioned Lokpal. He mentioned you know, money laundering bill, and he mentioned this the judicial accountability bill, etc., etc. See, you know, I would say the accountability. He touched on these various aspects, including, you know, this whole business of you know, corruption and all other things which have been leading to cynicism and problems. He touched on the Lokpal bill. He said that that is pending also. So to that extent, yes, he said. But you know what, I would like to also point out the food security which he's mentioning. He did say, because there's a huge debate on this cash transfer especially, whether food will be given through a cash transfer, the subsidy, or will it be in terms.
They believed to have boycotted this particular address. They were in fact staging some sort of protest around the
FDI and retail. So the left has been made clear that they will have none of this kind of thing. So their criticism has been general, that the economy is not only not doing so well, but that it is moving towards liberalization, and their allegation is that it is not inclusive. While the UPA continues to say that ours is inclusive growth, that we have done something for the health sector, we have done something on the food, Manrega, and the previous budgets, you know, that was UPA 1, of course, loan waiver, agriculture has done rather well. Now there's a whole green revolution taking place in the east, which is not so much talked about, but you know, part of the reason why Bihar and even the north and eastern states, the food has grown, the food production has grown enormously, is because of central government inputs also as a mission, you know, as a green revolution for the east. So a lot of things are there, but there were too many things, you know, so to that extent the speech lacked focus. I mean, you can't pick on one thing and say focus. Shekhar said very clearly that he spelt out that what are the problem areas for the government also, the youth aspirational, the youth, the aspiration, people want India to move much faster than it has been doing. And even that, what the rate it had earlier, 8 to 10%, 9% growth, year on year we had under UPA 1, that is slowed, that is almost halved. So to that extent there is a huge kind of despair and anxiety in the youth, whole lot of jobs to be created, education to be upgraded, because it's the quality of education, all that is there. So government, even if it has done something, it has not done enough from the point of view of the people. So that will give anxiety. And secondly, as Arun said, which also reflects on the functioning of Parliament, that so many pending bills. I mean, he mentioned a whole list of them, which were being carried on. Either they've been passed only by one house, not by the other. And they have been added every session. These bills are presented, and nothing gets passed. And it's going to be a heavy budget session. So the budget itself has to be passed. All the, you know, how ministries, the budgets have to be either you do a guillotine or you discuss them. 3-4 ministries at least will have to be discussed. So I don't know how much of the government agenda will get through. It is a worrying thing, because you know, there is a whole lot of
things that are pending and that the government will certainly like to, you know, complete at least at this point. But you know, the kind of, at times you see these uproar even during the sittings, these joint sittings, and this must be a very recent phenomenon. Mr. Iyer, have you really seen these kinds of instances in the past? You know, when President addresses, the moment he started, there was some sort of a sound that we,
this time it was over the issue of you know, the pictures that were splashed in many papers about the next session of the UN Human Rights Commission. So I think they were trying to make that point. But we have seen, but the other thing is, you know, just before the start of the session, on the eve of the session, we saw the government and the opposition coming to an agreement, at least one sore point which was there relating to Home Minister. You know, they don't stand in the way of, you know, the important legislations being passed, and use the Parliament forum itself, because every time there is a uproar and there is a adjournment, you know, the opposition is also in the dock. They're saying that if you have to come and say all this in television debates, you might as well say it during the debate inside the House. So there is a pressure to perform. Now, on the government, the challenge is, you see, the whole legislative process we have, or even rather the whole decision-making process is so slow, and with just 12 months left actually, how many of those steps that you can, actually take off and you can...
At this juncture, when this is considered to be one of the crucial years, as 2014 general elections is not that far. We'll take a very short break in Public Forum. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Public Forum. In Public Forum today, we are discussing President's address to the Parliament. Right, so it's the Constitution that provides for an address by the President to either House of Parliament or both houses assembled together, and the provision for address by the head of the state to Parliament goes back to the year 1921, when the Central Legislature was set up for the first time under the Government of India Act 1919. So some very interesting things which President Pranab Mukherjee did talk about, and of course, as it is supposed to be, a consolidated kind of statement coming from the records and of course the information fetched by different ministries. That's what we saw today. But Mr. Arun, since before going into the break, we were talking about the areas that were covered, of course, health, education, or even the social sector, upliftment of the marginalized, a lot of things were there. We talked about food security bill. Jobs were also a critical area. Government, he said, is committed to create about 100 million jobs within a decade, and he mentioned especially about the manufacturing sector, which aims to create a lot of jobs in coming times. How really do you look at the government's measures here to ensure labor generation in our country?
This is very much needed because the President also talked about the global slowdown which affecting India,
right,
and with the rate of growth also declining. This is a very crucial issue, and of course with elections in tow now in a year's time, this becomes an important sort of program of the government, and